application. As of now, the application is not visible here because by mistake that application got deleted. So if the same thing happens with you ever, you can clone an existing repository. And how do we do that? You need to go to your GitHub account. So I'm moving to my GitHub account and I need to find out which repository I had. My bank underscore details. This is my repository. On the right side, this green button code you need to click, and this HTTPS URL you need to copy. Once you copy this URL, go back to your development tool, and here you just write a command git clone and paste the URL. Git clone and paste the URL, just hit enter, and your application is available to start the development. The My Bank Detail application is available now. Okay. So first thing that we will do, we will run this application and we will see what is there in that app. And to run the application, the command is cd. You need to give the application name, the application folder. Once we are into the application folder, the command is npm run start. When we give start, okay, there is some problem, no problem. If you face similar issue, you can run a command called npm install. So the latest version would run the application perfectly. It would take only fraction of seconds. Okay, npm install is done. Now we will try to run the application again. Npm run start. Sorry, it was not writing. Npm run start. Now ideally the application should run. Now application is running and it will run on the local host. The port is 8080. Running the application on localhost is actually helpful because every time you make any changes in the actual code of application, the application refresh itself and you don't have to do manual refresh by coming and refreshing the page. As soon as I will make the change, the application will refresh. This is the best thing. And since if you will notice in this, I haven't given the command no FLP. So by default, it will open with FLP configuration. It is not actual FLP, it is a sandbox. And it is giving us an idea how the application would look in real world in the Fury Launchpad, how it would look. This is done. Now let's move to the development part and we will do some level of development. Go to your view folder, go to the root view, fview.xml. Right now we are doing development in the root view. Later we will make the root view separate and we will create other views where we will do the development. So right now we are doing in this one and I can write content. I'm just completing the text. So I can write something in between. Okay, the C is not capital, it is small. Okay. So whatever we will write inside the page, we have to write inside this content because content is something, this area is the content. Whatever is there would be coming here. If I will write, assume if I give it a label is a control of SAPM library. Later, I would show you where you can find these XML code. Right now, just write it down. Label is a control and label as a property called text. Whatever you will write inside this, it would be visible. So since we are creating a bank detail application, so I can say that here I can put my bank account number, right? And this is mandatory to give ID for all the controls. So I can say it's a bank account number. So when you provide an ID to any control, you provide it in such a way that it should be readable. It should be small enough. Like I could have written the whole thing bank account number, but I have written it in the short form. So in same way, you can write the label. So now this label is done, bank account number. Now the file is also saved, auto saved. And if I will go Now the application has refreshed, but I couldn't see anything. The same thing is there. The label is not there. Ideally, this label should be visible here, but it is not there. We need to figure it out why. So I tell you the reason is whenever you change your root view, and since there is no other view available, so whatever is loading inside this view, inside this page, right? But if you will go to your manifest.json file, you can see here we have provided one control id called app. This control id and the control is not available in our view. So for this reason the application is not loading anything. If you ever come across such situation where you are writing the code but application is not displaying the code, it means there is one control missing. Above page there is one control called app control is missing. So anytime whenever the application doesn't load, you should always check whether app control is there or not in the root view. If it is not there, the application will not load. After view, the pages will also come inside the app. So this is the opening tag, this is the closing tag, this is app, and we have to give the ID. We have to give the same ID that we have given here in the routing option controller ID app. So I'm just giving it an ID and it is app. Now I'm saving it. And if you will notice, the application will refresh by itself. Let me do it manual refresh. Okay, I think we have lost the connection, maybe for some reason. So I just rerun the application, no problem. What we have to do is that we have to go inside this project folder by doing cd my bank underscore details npm run start. Okay, let's not put no FSB. Let it run. Okay, application will run just in a moment. And when since the app control is there, the application will load everything whatever we are declaring here. If app control is not there, nothing would be displayed on the UI screen. For now, we can see the bank account number, which is clearly visible, right? Now, bank account number is clearly visible, so we will keep a dummy data for now because we don't have any service or anything. So what I say that after label, I want to add one text. Text is also a control, SAP M library control. It has also one property called text. This is property. Label is control, text is property, text is control, this text is property. And just for I can give some dummy number here. Assume this is my bank account number, even it is not, but just assume. And I give one ID, which is bank account. Instead of number, I can write value. Like this is what my ID is. And I just close this and I save it. Now the application is running again. This is the convention way or the standard way of assigning the IDs because the ID is mandatory now. You have to use ID for all the controls. Now, if you will notice, the bank account number is coming and my dummy number is also coming. But the problem is that it doesn't look much. It is just okay. So I have to make it little bit readable. And to do that, I have to identify certain SAP standard classes, CSS classes, because it's more about margin, because the margin is not there. Above there is no margin, on the left side there is no margin, right side there is no margin, and there should be one column that should be visible here. So what I will do after this bank account number, I will keep one column, and both of them should be okay. So my bank detail, this is the title. Again, here we have one more title. And I also want to add one title here. Title is also a control. I can say title is a property called text, and I can say the title is ACCOUNT account details. This is my title. I can say ID has account details. This is my title, and title has one more property called level. Level, I can give it a level, level. Level we can give from H1 to H6. So right now I'm giving it a label H1. Now I will see what changes are there in my application. Now my account details title is coming. But again, there is no margin, there is no padding. The CSS is worst. So I have to arrange it in certain way. So what I want that I want my title to be here and this bank account number and the third thing should be aligned in the next after this account details. What I will do to do that, now how we want to align it, we want to align it vertically. This one, two, three, this is the vertical from top to down, this is vertical, this is horizontal from left to right, top to down, left to right. I want to arrange it top to down. What I will do, I will keep one V box, we call it vertical box, right? Closing and opening tag you need to take care because sometimes we forget the closing tag and because of that it creates issue. And what I will do again, id I have to define, so I'm just giving a id as vbox1. And now whatever the data we have put here like title, label, text, everything is inside this vbox. And let's see what happens if I keep all three elements which were not coming right. If I keep them in vbox, what will happen? It will be aligned in vertically. Vertically, the things would align. Now see, account detail are coming, bank account number is coming, and my dummy data is also coming. But the problem is now because of vertical box, everything is aligned vertically. But I don't want this number to display underneath this bank account number. I want this number to be displayed here, just after this label. Now what I'm looking for, I'm looking for a horizontal alignment. Horizontally, I want to align them. So how we did it for VBox, what we will do only for these two, because we want these two to be aligned horizontally. What I will do, I will create one H box. I will create one H box, closing and opening tag. And what I will do, only these two things which I want to be aligned horizontally, I will put these two things inside this H box. And H box should also have a ID. ID I can give H box one. This is perfect. Hbox, I have given the hbox and I have provided the details here, label and text. Now you see how it looks. Now it is somewhat readable, at least it is aligned the way I want it. But still I see there is a problem that there is no space between these two. And I want to create some space between these two. Bank account, then space, then this one. So for this we have standard SAP classes. We have standard SAP classes. And standard SAP classes, what it does, it can provide margin for all four side. It can provide margin from left side, margin from right side, margin from top, margin from bottom. But right now, what I'm looking for, if I get a margin on the right side, that is enough. So what I will do, the bank account number, I will identify where is this label. This is the bank account number label. And what I will do, I will create one new property. These all are properties: text property, ID property, class is a property. And I will say SAP UI small margin, small margin, end. Why end? Because I want the margin to become in the end of this label. So what will happen? This would immediately go one step ahead. And this is the standard class SAP UI small margin end, because I'm giving a margin in the end. Let's see. Yeah, there is a margin now. And this margin is coming because we have put the end margin here. This is a way to do it. What if I don't want to do anything here? And what if I just remove it and I say, no, I want to give the margin not on the bank details or not on the bank account number. I want to give margin on some other place. Like I want to give margin here. So if I just copy paste the class, instead of SAPUI small margin and I will say SAPUI small margin begin. And you will notice the same thing what happened will happen here as well. You can notice the difference, right? Same thing is getting loaded, but we have changed the SAP standard class. I hope you have understood that how we can utilize this class. We can put this class here also. We can put this class on the other side as well. It depends on us where we want the margin. Now, like that, I have to create other edge boxes. So what I do, I have the pre-written code and I will copy it and I will explain you what this code is doing. Okay. Nothing I have done. I have just copied some of the existing code so I don't have to write the. You have understood how we are creating Edgebox, right? Similar way, I have Edgebox 2 where I have some other field, other data like account holder name. And similar way, I have used a SAP class of margin end. Similar way, I have the third Edgebox and which is called IFS code. And I have used the class SAP UI small margin end. So this I want to display. Let's see how application looks now. Application looks good. I have the bank account number. I have the account holder name. Samrendra Kumar Mitra. He was the first Indian programmer. IFS code I have utilized. This is dummy data. For now, we are using dummy data. Later, we will use JSON model, OData model, and we will do the binding stuff and everything. But still, I would say that there is some problem. There is some problem, and the problem is this account detail is not that much aligned. I mean, I want some more space throughout this whole body. So what I will do, everything is inside this VBox, this VBox. What if I give a class to this VBox? Because inside the VBox we have different three edge boxes. This is everything is inside this VBox. This title is also inside this VBox. So I give a class here and I say SAP UI small margin. I'm not saying where I want margin. I want it in begin or how we have given the margin here. If I can make it little readable for you, just learn from the things that we have done. SAPUI small margin end. It will give the margin in the end of the control. SAPUI small margin will provide the margin from all the sides, from top, bottom, left, right, all the sides, begin, end, top, bottom. Now it is somewhat looking good because now we have the margin on top, we have the margin on left, we have the margin below, we have the margin all over the place. So this is somewhat looking okay. This is what we wanted. Now I want to display you that because we have put so many things in this view, our code is spread and we need to align our code properly. And for alignment, we need some extension. I show you how we can do that. Here is the extension option. On the left side panel, you will see this box is four boxes. This is called extensions. Go to extensions and here you, okay, go down. There should be some option, hide disclaimer. Here you search XML tool and you will see a lot of different extensions available for XML tool. Just make it little big. XML language support by Red Hat, but we want XML tool, but it is not coming. The one which I want, that XML. Okay, this is the one. Dot Josh Johnson. This is the one. So I just click on install because I want this XML tool to be part of the installation. And then we can manage it. Now it got installed. So I would come here. Everything is not aligned. I would give one command called Shift Alt F, and everything is aligned. Yeah, this is command is Shift Alt F. This is the command that we are using. Shift plus Alt plus F. This is the command that we are using. We have other ways as well to do this. And the other ways is that as soon as I save my file, it should align the code properly. It should format the code properly. Let me show you how we can achieve it. If you will go to settings icon on the left hand side, preferences, if you will click open preferences, in the text editor option, you will find one option called auto format, or on the save, I need to find out where is this option. Format on save. Enable format on manual save. If you just hit, whenever you will do a manual save, the code would be formatted automatically. So just enable the settings. This is inside the text editor. You need to go below and format on save. This option you need to find out. So what will happen? Whatever you will type here, whenever you will save the file, the code would be aligned, so it would be more readable, because readability is something very important. Now I think you have understood how we are proceeding. We have a label control, we have ID property, text property, class property. Same way, we have one hbox, we have ID assigned to it. We have two controls inside hbox, label and text, account holder name, and the proper name value, account holder name, name value. This is one hbox. This is another hbox. This is third hbox. This whole thing is inside one vbox. That way it is coming one, two, three, four. Vertically it is aligned. Now we would proceed further. I will show you what is fragment. If you will just write what is fragment in SAPUI5, there could be multiple answers. Just for a common definition, fragment supports the definition of lightweight standalone UI control trees. You can say basically that fragments are lightweight UI components which doesn't have their own controller file. They rely on the same controller where they are being declared. This is what fragment is. More easy definition. On click of a button, we call a fragment. The fragment can hold an UI control. In our case, we place a dialog box inside a fragment. Yes, we can place a dialog box inside a fragment. So fragment could be declared in controller. Fragments could be declared in XML, both the, and you should know both the ways. How do we declare the fragment in XML? How do we declare the fragment in controller? In controller, we can open the fragment on click of something. In XML, when we declare fragment, it will automatically load it. Let me show you how it works. This is my bank detail application. I go to the view, and whenever you declare any fragment, you create one fragment folder. This is the standard way of developing the software, developing the SAP application, and you create one fragment folder with name as fragments. Once you create the folder, now you need to create one file inside it, the fragment file. So fragment folder is created. I will right click on this. I will go and I will select new file. We are not generating this using the command line, because it would be little difficult for you then if we do everything from command line. We will surely generate the files using command line as well. Now I give it a name to this fragment which I want to show. So I just give it a name as bank details. Naming convention also you take care, because when we write any app, any view, we give the capital letter for the view name. Similar way, when we write any fragment, we give the naming convention as capital and small. How we are declaring the JavaScript variables, something in that way, but the first letter should be capital. Bank details dot, you have to put one extension called fragment. Bank details dot fragment dot xml. This is a file name that we are. This is a file that we are creating. Now our application, our file would be available inside this fragments folder. There is a new file that is created, which is called bankdetails.fragment.xml. Now our fragment file is created, which is bankdetails.fragment.xml. But if you will notice, it is giving us an error. It is because the fragment is not defined in our controller. It is not defined in our view, and the fragment definition is also not provided. So fragment definition is a SAP UI core control, which is useful to define any UI that we are designing, or any control that we are assigning in any view. So it is a definition to identification of a fragment. Let me give you an Let me show you how it is defined. Whenever you create any fragment, you just get this information core, because the fragment definition we need to give fragment fragment definition. This is the control. Now, same way how we were creating the content and other control. In the same way, it also has open and closing tag, fragment definition, and close it. Whatever UI that you are going to design, you need to design inside these two core fragment definition. Still, it is giving error because whenever you create any fragment, you need to define how we are how we have the predefined libraries like XML, NS, SAPUI core.mvc, XML, NS, SAP.m. In the similar way, in the fragment definition also we need to define what libraries we require. And there are two libraries which are highly important. Every time you create a fragment, first define them. XML, NS, XML, NS core is equal to sap.ui.core. This is a very important library. Apart from it, XML NS equal to sap.m. These two libraries are very important. Once you define it, see there is no error, nothing. It is runtime, it is checking each and everything. So once you define the fragment definition, now our fragment is almost ready. We have to load this fragment at some place. Let me show you how. If I mention text, just for your example, text, and I can say, this is my fragment. Just the normal text I'm keeping it. ID I'm giving txt12. Anything ID, you can give anything. Instead of s, I'm giving ID. No, no, anything you can give here, because this is, we are not creating for the development. This is just to display you how fragment looks. Later we will add the right code here. Right, this is the text. If you will see that our application is running fine, our code is there, everything is. So where is the fragment? Fragment is the part of the code, but it is not part of the runtime UI. And to do that, we have to add this fragment. We have to add this fragment. I told you there are two ways. One, you can load the fragment inside the controller. You can load the fragment inside the view. This is the place where you will load the controller. Inside page, you have the vbox. Just after the content, we can load this fragment. And to load the fragment, there is a separate code. There is a separate way how we have the core fragment definition. In the similar way, we have one more control called core fragment. This is the control, and you can actually close this without any issue. This is the control. First, you define one ID, because ID is important. You can say fragment. Which fragment? Bank details fragment. Anything is fine. Let me just close it, because otherwise it will keep coming, keep distracting us. ID is defined. Now I will define the second property, and the second property is fragment name. Now you need to provide the fragment name here. And how you would identify what is the fragment name? You go to your manifest file, your manifest.json, which is already open, but still you go to manifest.json file, because I can show you what does this ID mean. When you see in manifest on the top, we have something called com.sap.mybankdetails. This is our ID, application ID. Copy this. Why this ID? What is the meaning of this ID? That namespace plus application name. So the code execution comes till this web app folder. If you write it down somewhere, that means you are, as a path, you are in the web app folder, right? So go there in the fragment. Wherever we are giving the fragment name, we are giving the fragment name. What is the name of a fragment? So till here we have come. My bank details, web app folder. We are now from web app folder. Where is our fragment? Our fragment is into view folder. So what I will do, just after this, I will put dot and I will write view. Now after view, where is our fragment? Our fragment is, if I can make it little more big, our fragment is inside the fragments folder. So after view, I will put fragments. This is a folder name. Then we have to give the fragment name, which is bank details inside the fragments. So I give bank details. This is done. Now let me make it smaller so we can see the code nicely. If I just double click, it will look more better. Now you might be thinking why I didn't do it earlier. But anyway, let's move. This is our fragment name. Now, there's a most important property in fragment is type, and type should be capital accent. This is the definition of fragment. This is the declaration of fragment in the UI. Generally, whenever you appear for any interview, the interviewer asks you this kind of question. They say, "What is the property name where we are loading the fragment in XML?" So you say, "Sir, the control name is called fragment, and the property name is fragment name." That's where we are giving the path of our fragment file without any extension. And the type we provide the property type XML. That's how we are loading the fragment inside. But the problem is, I tell you what's the problem here. Still, there is a problem. Problem is now my bank detail application itself is not getting loaded. You see, there is some error. There is some error. The component is not getting loaded. You see, whenever you encounter these kind of errors, always remember either the configuration mismatch, but here configuration mismatch can't happen because this is not the actual Fury Launchpad. This is just a sandbox. It means there is a mismatch of library. Whenever you see this kind of error, the component for navigation intent, it's not the problem of the navigation intent. It's not. It's the problem of a library which is not getting loaded, right? So I have used the fragment definition here, but if you will notice on the top, we haven't assigned the library. Maybe possible, but if I can see one library is not there, which we defined here, XML core. This library is not here, and as I told you that sap.m and this core library, these are the two important library, sap.ui.core. It should be there all the time. Now I think the fragment should work fine because we are using core here, right, for this fragment declaration. And if we are not putting the correct library on the top, it will definitely give give an error to us. And these errors I'm showing you. So while development, if you face these kind of errors, this video might be getting little longer. It might be a long video for you, but I promise you that if you focus on all the errors, you will find the right solution. And next time, when you see any error, you will directly hit to the problem that this is a problem, right? But I think again there is some problem because the application is still now it is getting loaded. This is my fragment where I declared it here in the XML file in our app view.xml, right? And I declared it just above our vbox or hbox, whatever we created. So my this is my fragment. Where is this text? This text is inside this, which is getting loaded perfectly. But since I have a fragment, why can't I put this thing in a fragment? So you will say that what will happen if I do that? Assume if I just copy paste this view, this vbox and everything, whatever I created, if I just cut it from here, right? And I say that let's just remove this fragment text, whatever was there, and let's just copy paste our code here, our vbox. Eventually, what will happen if I do that? First, will it run? Yes, it will run. It will load the same UI that was getting loaded previously, and it will work fine. It should work fine ideally. Let's see. Yeah, it is getting loaded. But what happened here, our application code is more cleaner now because in our app view, there is only one fragment definition. I have put the fragment declaration. Right. Earlier there was lots of code. There was lots of code like this, that too in my root view. Now it is not there. This is the first use case of fragment. In the interviewer asked, why do we declare the fragment in XML? We declare the fragment in XML because of code readability, to optimize our code. So whatever the code is there in bank details, now I don't have to write it here in my actual root view, but still the code is visible. I mean the whatever the code is generating, that is visible as it is. Earlier also we were loading the same UI. Right now also we are loading the same UI. The only difference is this UI is not the part of root view, it is the part of this fragment. And the fragment, we are loading it here as a core fragment. This was good. Now let's understand the another declaration of fragment. Another declaration. How, what is the other way of using it? This is the one way. Whatever, assume you have 500 lines of, not 500 actually, you can say the 50 lines of code where you design something very nicely, table and something, and then you say that I want to load it in a fragment, right? So anytime any issue comes or anything happens, you don't have to come to your root view, because there could be three, four, five, six, seven, eight fragments, right? You will see which fragment it is. You will directly open your fragment. You will directly open the file, and you will start looking at it. And if you have to make any changes, so it is more standard and easy way to do it. And for code optimization in XML, more readable code if we want, we will utilize fragment. Now there's another use case of fragment. Sometimes we load the fragment in the form of dialog. In the form of dialog. How do we do that? What if I load the same data, same thing in a dialog box here on click of some button? Let's see it how we can do it. This is the another way where we are loading the fragment in controller. So I close this bank detail fragment here. I close my manifest.json file also. And to some extent, we would require the app, because this is where we are going to write our code. Let me create a button here, because I want to load the fragment on the click of a button. I need to give a ID to this button. Button ID, you can say a button ID, you can say open fragment or open bank details. This is the button ID I can mention. Now what I will do, there is one property of button. Now there is another property of button which is called type. There could be different type. Right now I'm using emphasized. This is one of the type of button. Once we will load the button on UI, you will see what is emphasized mean. And I can write one text. Text is also again one property. What I want to display on the button, I want to say find more details. Find more details. So this is what I want to display on my button. And there are other properties as well that we will just close this. We will add them later. There is a property called press event, what event we are going to pass. So that we can display. But for now, we are just creating the button with these three, and let it open. Button is coming, find more details. Wait. Similar way, I can actually create one more button just to show you what all type of button are there. Like not all the types. Later we will show what all types are there. I can say demo button, and the type I can give is, this could be neutral type button, and text I can give anything uh, like refresh or anything. Just for this is just for demo. Refresh demo, anything I can give. And okay, let it keep only refresh. This is the text and press and everything. Just close it and just see how this button looks like. What is natural? What does natural looks like? Once the application will load, we'll go to the application, we'll see it. Now the application is getting load. This is the type of button: gray highlighted, blue highlighted. If I just reverse them, it would look more good. I think this neutral will look better in the above button, and this emphasized would look better on the below button. See, this is actually not only about the looks. Button we are designing in SAPUI5 specifically based on the use case, what the button is doing. It is for navigation back, it is to reject any item, or it is to add some new item. So there are different types of button that we will see later. Find more details. What I want is once I click on this button, it should be it should open a new fragment. It should open the same data in a new fragment. This is what we are doing. Right now, what I will do, I will replace this refresh button here on the top. because here it will look more good. So what I do is I remove this refresh button. This is we are doing just for learning, just for fun, not for this refresh button has nothing to do with our development. I'm just showing you what kind of buttons are there. Above content, if why I'm showing you is that assume this is our header, right? Where our title is coming, I-89 title is written. So I just remove it because I-89 will discuss later. Account, I'm giving a title called account. Now, if I want in the same title on the right side something to be displayed, something to happen, that I want to show you. Let the application load. Now application is getting loaded. Here the account, here the account details, my bank details, this is the app name. On this right side, if I want to put that button, how would I do that? So I have to create above content, below page. You have to see the content aggregation. I will create one header content. It is automatically created. Inside header content, I will paste that button. So what will happen? The button will automatically replaced from this place to, I mean, wherever it was visible earlier, just nearby this bank detail button, for find more detail. Now it is not there, it is actually here on the refresh. So if you want to place anything, if you want to display on this right side, you can put it in the header content. Like this, you need to remember what different controls are there to place something. Our core fragment is also done, and I think it is not automatically formatting. So I just hit Shift Alt F, and now it got format. Now my button is also visible. Everything is set. What I need to do is that now I need to create another fragment. I tell you what's the problem. If we are going to display the same detail, you might ask why we are not using the existing fragment. It is because when we open the fragment using click of a button from controller, we are opening everything inside a dialog box. So we need to create a dialog box. This is a very important difference is that else we could have used the same controller, sorry, same fragment. We can't use it because here we just want to display the detail in XML, but there we want to display the detail in a dialog box. If I add the dialog box here, this nothing would be loaded here if I add the dialog box. If I don't add the dialog box, then only it is added here. So I have to create another fragment, which would be much better. So I go to my fragment, new file, and I can say more details. More details. Find more details we are creating, right? So I just give more details dot fragment dot xml. And again, I need to make one fragment definition. Last time how we did it, in the same way we will do. We will write core fragment definition, right? And we will also close this fragment definition, core fragment definition. We are going to close this. Now here, once it is done, the fragment definition, now what I do, I put my libraries XML and X SAP.m. First library XML and S colon core equal to sap.ui.core. These two you remember all the time. Whenever you start work in any fragment, any controller, you remember, just maintain them by hand. Don't just copy paste. Do it by your hand. So every time you remember what are the significance of these libraries. Without these two libraries, nothing will load. Even a single text control cannot be loaded in UEFI. So these two libraries are very important. And from interview perspective, also the interviewer asks you what all UEFI libraries you know. So at least tell these two names and tell them like these are the highly important libraries that we have to define on each fragment and each view. This is what the significance of these libraries. Now I would create one dialog. Dialog is another control again in the same way how we have text, how we have labels, we have the dialog. But and dialog needs to be closed. Now I have opened the dialog, I have closed the dialog. Again, I have to provide one ID. So this is more bank detail details, right? This is my dialog ID or bank details. Inside the dialog, now I can mention anything what I would like to do. But before that, I want to show you dialog has one more property, which is called title. And in title, I can say confidential details, right? Because we are displaying the more bank details. More bank details, there could be other confidential details as well. So this is a dialog that I'm creating, but we are not opening this dialog as of now. As of now, we are not opening anything here because to open this dialog, to open this fragment, we have to write the logic in controller. Right now, everything is fine. For find more details, I can say on the left side, there is no margin. So let's put some margin here. So you remember that what SAP classes is standard classes that we are using. We need to put the margin. This is my button. And after this text, I am adding one class, and the class is SAPUI small margin where begin or end. It should be begin because left side we want margin. So we'll keep SAPUI small margin begin, and this is keep opening, keep getting closed. Okay, now it is looking somewhat better. It is looking somewhat better. Now our goal is to display these details in a dialog. So first let me open the dialog. How to open this dialog? If I click on this button, something should happen, right? That dialog box should get opened, but it is not getting open right now. What I will do, I will add one new property, and this new property is important because it is a press event. It is a property. If somebody say is press a property of button, yes, it is a property of button. That's where we define the name of the function, name of the function where all the logic will run. So here I'm giving a name dot on open bank details, that if somebody click it, it should open the bank details. It is automatically getting saved. Open bank details, this is a new property I have defined here. Now what I will do, I will copy this, and this time I will go to the respected controller. As I said, does not have fragments, don't have their own controller. Whatever you want to define, you have to define it in the controller of the same view where we are declaring the fragment. Same view, right? The app view. So app controller, we will write the logic wherever the button is. If we are opening it from this find more details button, we need to find where this button is into app view, and from app view we would actually from app view we would load the dialog. So I'm going to the controller, and this is the app controller. Inside the app controller, I need to mention all the logic. This is our on init function. Here we won't do anything, and in our controller we will write the actual logic. So what I do is I copy paste my function here. This is my function name, column. This is the function declaration. In old JS, in new JS, the function declaration is changed, but we are just keeping it easy. So this is the function. Here I would write the logic. So I would say that create dialog lazily. Lazy way we want to create the dialog. Let me show you how it works. First of all, we have to check whether dialog is already there or not. Still, it's not created, but once it will create. It should not keep on loading the same dialog, right? So we are keeping it a condition here if, and we are keeping it as a condition not true. Whenever you write this exclamation mark, it means not true. This dot more bank details. I'm just giving it as a name, more bank details. This is a fragment. So what I'm writing that if it is not there, create one. This dot more bank. This is the standard way to declare the fragment in controller, right? If it is not there, create one. How you would create? There is a standard function called this dot load. Let me open it on the bigger screen. This dot load fragment. This is a standard function. This dot load fragment. Inside this, at the end, we need to keep semicolon. Inside this, we will pass. This is a standard method. Inside this, we will pass one object, and inside that object, we will pass key and value. This is the structure of any object, key and value. In key, I would pass, these are the standard key and standard value name. And what name I will pass? I'll pass the name of my fragment, which I want to load. And this name I can copy from this because here I loaded. This is the name of the fragment. Name of the fragment means the path of the fragment, right? So view, then fragments, then bank details. So what I do, I just copy paste it. The only difference is now we are not loading bank details, we are loading more details. So instead of bank detail, I will put as more details. This is the fragment that we are loading this time. This is done. Once this part is completed, now what we will do, we will come to the if condition. This is where the if condition is ending. Wherever the if condition is ending, we will put this dot more bank details. Sorry, okay, we have kept it as more bank details. Dot then. This is again a predefined function that we are using. Dot then. That once you checked whether more bank details are there or not, if it is not there, it will execute this. If it is there, first it will create one. If it is not there, first it will create one, and then it will execute. So this function anyway would be executed in all the possibility. Dot then function, and inside the function, I'm just giving or dialog, just a representation to my dialog, and then since it's a function, so if it is a function, then these two parameters would be there inside the function, and whatever is the ending, I'm just keeping it as semicolon. Because if you see any function, this is a declaration of function. If we are doing it, you can see the above function also. This is a function, right? This is a function. If function is there, these parentheses would be there, and this closing and opening braces would be there. Same thing I'm doing. I'm writing this dot more details where my fragment definition is there. Then I'm putting a then function. Then is a standard method. So if it is a standard method, we are not writing any function or anything. So then is open and close. Inside this, I'm giving a function, right? If I can show you, because it might be little difficult for you. This is the then function. Forget about this part. Forget about this part. This is the actual thing happening. Now inside this then function, what I'm doing, I am creating one more function, and I'm passing one reference of O dialog. Now, since I'm creating a function, I also have to create open and close braces, and we can keep it together so it will look somewhat better. Yes, now O dialog is there, and I just write O dialog dot open, and yes, that's all. That's all it will take to open this fragment. Where somewhere it requires comma. I'm not sure where it is exactly. This is if condition. This is then. Okay, this function definition is wrong. FUNC. Function dialog, everything is fine. Okay, I just formatted Shift Alt F. Now it is looking somewhat good. So what we are doing, checking the fragment, creating the fragment, and opening it or dialog.open. Let's see if our code works fine or not. This is what it happening, and in the fragment, not sure if application is not getting, if application is not loading, then it's a problem. In XML, this is our XML code, this is our button, this is our button, and this is the method that is getting called. Once we click in the app, it will open this method. Now let's see, application is loading. If I click on this, it is opening one dialog, confidential details. Where is this dialog? This dialog is more details fragment. So there is a fragment definition, but inside the fragment definition, I have a dialog which has the title confidential details. That's why it is visible here. Now, what was our goal? If I just press escape button, it will close. What was our goal? Our goal is to put this data inside the dialog. So it's not a big thing. Just go to your actual uh, fragment, copy the data, copy the data, and in more details inside the dialog, paste it. Inside the dialog, paste it, and just remove the title because title is not required. And what will happen? It should work fine. Since it's a more detail, we can actually add one or two more edge boxes. Right now there are three edge boxes. We can add one or two more edge boxes. So application is getting loaded, and that's how everything, because the style classes are implemented, everything is coming here. Three. Let me put two more. Let me put two more edge box here. I have just pasted two more HBox here, customer ID and address. So it will look like more details we are providing, customer ID we are providing, address we are providing. It would look something better. Let the application load. If I click this, I'm getting on. Why I'm getting space here? Let me figure it out. If I see, I'm giving margin end, margin end. Here I'm giving margin bottom in the HBox string. So I just remove this class. It's not required. We don't have to give margin on the HBox level. And if I will load this time, it will load perfectly. If I click on find more details, it is coming. This is how the fragments are getting loaded. But now still one task is pending. How do we close this fragment? If it is loaded, I have to close it also. Every time user can't use escape button, there should be some close button here, somewhere here. We will create that. I will go to my more details fragment. After everything we have to write inside the dialog. Don't write anything outside the dialog box. Just write everything inside the dialog box. And the dialog box has one property called begin button. Begin button is a control where we can create one button, and that button we can close the dialog using that button. So I just give button ID. I can say close button is the ID. There is some problem with this. Okay, button, close button. This is the ID, and I can write a text called close. So it should look okay. C capital, C capital. Text is close, and again same. Press if press is the event. I can say on close bank bank details. On close bank details, and I can close this button. This is my button declaration. On close bank details. Let me see if this button is visible or not. We will go to the application, we will click, and our button is visible. The close button is coming. Automatically, the lines are there, so it looks good. That's why we use the begin button control. We don't use this everywhere wherever we declare button. Only inside the dialog we are using the begin button. Now our button is available. But when we click on this button, this dialog is not getting closed. Let me show you how to do it. Again, for the same thing we have to do. Press event is there. We have to write one logic in our controller. Now you see the XML when we had the button, we were writing the logic in the app controller because the app view is there. But now we are into the fragment. Our button is inside the fragment, but still we will write the logic in the same controller, the same app controller, because fragments doesn't have their own don't have their own controllers. We write the logic in the same view controller wherever the fragment is declared. Now let me find the end of this function. and you put one comma. Comma is important, otherwise your function won't run. Wherever the one function is getting ended, like on in it is ending here, that's where we are keeping one function here. Wherever this function is getting end, we will start new function. This is our function name, colon. This is our function declaration, function, parenthesis, and opening and closing braces. This is a function declaration. Now what we want to do here, inside this, I want to close one dialog. Which dialog I want to close? This or dialog. What is this or dialog? This dot more bank details. We can actually write this dot more bank details dot close. That would also work fine. But I give you very unique way, not unique, but it is the most simplest one. This dot by id dot close. This is a method that you can utilize to close this existing fragment. You need to copy the ID of this dialog. Wherever we have the dialog declaration, more bank details, this ID you need to copy. Now I'm showing you what is the use of ID now. How we can utilize ID. If I copy this ID, go to my controller, sorry, this dot by ID, and in a string, I can put the ID and I can save this. Our application is loading. If I click find more details, confidential details are visible, and if I click on close button, the fragment is getting vanished. It is no longer the part of this UI. I mean, it is not visible on the UI. So this is what we have learned. We have learned about fragments. We have learned about the standard SAP CSS classes, and the same way we will learn more concept in the next video. Now we will actually push this code to GitHub because now we have a lot of code that we have generated. So we need to push this code to GitHub, and we need to make sure that our code is safe every time we push it to GitHub. So I will show you how we can keep our master branch safe, how we can check whether code is pushed to the GitHub or not. All these things we will do now. This is what we have learned in this tutorial. This is what we are going to learn in this tutorial. This is what we are going to learn in this tutorial. We will create one title and a few label and text properties, and there is one button called find more details. Once we click on the button, we are opening one fragment dialog. We are opening one fragment. Inside that fragment, one dialog, and same details we are loading, and on click of the close button, we are closing the dialog box, closing the fragment. And these details we are loading inside a fragment, not inside the view directly. We are using the core fragment control, and we are loading this UI inside the fragment. Here also we are loading this UI inside the fragment in a dialog. Thank you.